Now, chorus for justice for Abhaya is growing with each passing day. In the latest, Supreme Court has taken suo motu cognizance of the Kolkata rape and horror. Three-judge bench headed by Justice D.Y. Chandrachud will be hearing this matter on Tuesday. This comes as thousands of doctors are still on the streets demanding justice for the 31-year-old trainee doctor who was raped and brutally murdered in Kolkata's RG Kar hospital. Now, over 70 Padma awardee doctors have written to Prime Minister Modi demanding action against the heinous rape. The Padma awardee doctors demanding a separate law to deal with violence against the health workers. As we know that doctors have come together across states, in fact, to be asking for a proper law that governs protection and safety of the medical fraternity. And this has been a demand since 2019 when an actual bill was formulated, but it was left in the back burner. Doctors now demanding that it be put to effect now. It's high time. Dr. Ashok Seth, who is the chairman, Fortis Escorts Heart Institute, New Delhi, joining us for more on that. Dr. Ashok, thank you for your time. If you could give us a little in detail on the letter that you've shot off to the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. What are your demands and what's your ask there?
See, these are not demands. These are actually the demands of the society. We just believe that we are an integral and important part of the society and need to remind not just the society, but our policy makers that this gruesome murder has been there for, we've been watching what's been happening on television. We've been having the demands of doctors, but we've having demands of the nation also to say, how can we actually prevent these acts of violence, assault, not just on healthcare workers, not just on ladies, but actually the society as a whole. Even since over the last 10 days, and today is Raksha Bandhan, and by the way, today we solemnly swear in front of God to protect our sisters. And when we do that, do we realize that even in the last 10 days, numerous gruesome acts of assaults against healthcare workers, of rape amongst women, on women have happened. And you've been seeing that in papers every day. So actually, it's a reminder that we now need to act. We just can't sit around talking about it. There are laws in every state. And by the way, into 2019, states had laws. And by this time, I think 25 states had laws. But the implementation is poor. And therefore, we urge the Prime Minister to create the Central Act. The Central Act has been sitting on a back burner since, I think, 2022. It was introduced as a bill into the Parliament. And then, of course, it was delayed. It's important at this time. This is the time for all of us to wake up for the Central Protection Act for healthcare workers, for doctors, for nurses, and anyone who actually becomes a person who's a part of healthcare needs to be protected. We've seen suicides related to assault on lady doctors. We've seen the heinous crimes that have happened, but believe you me, multiple times a day, somewhere in this country, doctors are being assaulted for no fault of theirs, for a science which is truly a service, and for a science that we so know little about, and we do our best for the patients for hours and hours and hours. And I say this more so for junior doctors. Can you believe I was speaking to a young daughter's mother? Exactly 6 months ago, the mother and the daughter were clear that the single vision in their life was save the money, we want to make our daughter a doctor. To yesterday, the same person said to me, I've actually advised my daughter not to become a doctor. We don't know when she'll be assaulted. We don't know what her lifestyle, how she'll be taken care of. We can't even believe that she can be walking on those dark corridors at night or being in an emergency, treating the patient with the fullest sacrifices and yet be assaulted, and we would have nothing and we would have lost everything. That is the message now we're experiencing from our youth who want to become doctors, who actually want to do service, and are always in a threat of being assaulted, apprehended, and verbal or physical abuse. So let's just be clear as a society. We're not doing this as doctors. We're doing it as a society. We're doing it as responsible members of society. We also happen to be doctors, and we also happen to be those who are recognized by the nation. And therefore, it is our job to remind our Honorable Prime Minister, who actually means well for everybody and has meant well, This is the time for him to show it for our nation, for our society, for our medical fraternity, for our healthcare workers, and for our women also.
Right. Dr. Ashok, we know that there was a bill that was formulated in 2019, which was the Healthcare Services Personnel and Clinical Establishments Act. In that too, there were sweeping powers given in that bill for authorities to take stringent action on those assaulting doctors on duty, jail up to 10 years, fine up to 10 lakhs. Do you believe that that should be brought into effect with amendments?
Absolutely. The Central Protection Bill is a must. When it's a central bill, believe you me, its implementation is going to be uniform. Its applicability will be defined, and nobody will actually get out of it or away from it through loopholes which states can always create. So at the moment, the implementation lies with the state of the laws, which are state laws. Its execution also lies there. And there's no uniformity at every state as to what it actually means, who is it meant for, what does it really entail, and how can the loopholes be utilized to get the miscreants and the assaulters out of it completely. So a central act would be a very powerful act, would actually ensure that that doctor becomes a public servant. And believe you me, any assault on a public servant is a jail. I don't want to define that act, but I need to say that Central Protection Bill is our Padmas, as Padma awardees, the biggest part of that 5-point plan, which we say, for safety of healthcare workers and for safety of women in this country.
Dr. Ashok, you know, the reason to why that bill in 2019 was kept in the back burner was that the justification was that there are already laws that currently protect healthcare workers extensively. Why do you need a separate law altogether? Would you want to elaborate? Why do we need a separate law?
Yes, I do want to elaborate. At the end of the day, these are state laws. Yes, and the reason it was kept on a back burner is that many of these can be state subjects. But do you know that that is the reason why all this has happened, you see, in Kolkata. And you see that daily in your news items, as well as in the print media, every day what's happening. Assault on doctors and assault on women and lady doctors and healthcare workers and nurses. Because of the single fact that each law in every state is different totally. There's no uniformity. That's what I said. Its applicability, execution, and implementation is fraught with what the government of the state wants to do, is fraught with what the regulators want to do, is even fraught with how law and legality looks at it. It's even fraught with exactly this heinous crime happening, and the perpetrators could actually be getting away with it in 4 days' time because the loopholes exist. A central act overcomes all this. A central act has a definition. It defines who, it defines why, it defines the punishment, and it also defines what do we mean by protection for the doctors. Any central bill will be overriding and will have principally specific action and specific action plan execution, implementation, and rapid redressal of the problem. I think that's what's needed. That's why we live with 25 states having laws into place, and that still you continue to see what's happening every day. If we believe that that was the way out of it all, then we wouldn't be seeing what happened to a daughter in the RGKR Medical College, and we wouldn't see where we stand today as a society in shape. We have laws into place, but there is no law and there's no implementation at a state level.
Right. And I get your point. You want a uniform law that governs all states. It's one law that covers the entire country and ensures stringent punishment to those assaulting doctors on duty. Why do you think it's the need of the hour? Of course, this is the Kolkata rape and murder case has really highlighted the apathy towards medical professionals across the country. But a few instances in your understanding on the kind of struggles that doctors face on a daily basis, a day-to-day basis. Of course, women on one side don't have protection enough. They're working in massive hospitals, campuses that are so large and late into the night, walking from one ward, one wing to the other without actual security in place. So we know the struggles for women per se, but the entire medical fraternity, doctors and men and women, the kind of struggles that you face on a regular basis, and how many are underreported or not reported.
Right. On a regular basis, and we must understand that we're not just talking about big hospitals where people where doctors may be more protected, but the widespread healthcare services which exist in this country, going down to the smaller town and villages. We also must understand the overloaded healthcare structure, including our government hospitals, where doctors continue to work for hours and hours and days continuously, sometimes for 48 hours, and duty hours which may go to 70, 80 hours in a whole week, with basic amenities and infrastructure, whereby the patient still expects that at the end a life would be saved. And the doctor continues to work hard in those circumstances, in the government hospital, in the public hospital, in their nursing homes. In a science, and I just want to emphasize this, in a science of a human body, which is still imperfect. To tell you frankly, what I do today is, as in angioplasty, is an opening of blocked arteries. 20 years ago, what I did 20 and 25 years ago was so outdated compared to what I do now. And perhaps 20 years later, it would be so advanced that today would be outdated. That's how little we understand of a human body. The advancements of science continue on, and we understand more and more. So we are not gods. Every doctor tries to do his best to save a life. But the public gets frustrated by the infrastructure, may get frustrated by many other aspects of our inability to deliver healthcare in the appropriate manner, and the wrath is taken out on the first person who's in front of it. That's the healthcare workers, that's the doctors. Unfortunately, by the way, every day, if you were just today now to say how many assaults took place today, how many verbal abuses took place today amongst healthcare workers, if you were able to just pull it, you will be inundated with calls even for what's happened today in the last 12 hours. And that's how we see it every day happening in smaller cities and smaller towns, and it goes to public hospital, goes to private hospital. And some are able to protect themselves better within their own circumstances. Others, believe you me, who are the primary givers of healthcare service in this country, right down to the villages, are unfortunately in those situations where they worry every day as people walk in groups into their offices or into the emergency in a small nursing home. They worry every day because this would be an assault, this could be destruction of property, and the lives can actually be in danger at any time. Yes, it's a reality.
True. Absolutely, and we hear cases of assault on doctors almost on a regular basis. And of course, the case that happened at the RG Card Hospital in Kolkata has been an eye-opener. As my final question to you would be, are you satisfied with the process of the investigation in the Kolkata rape and murder case?
You said an eye-opener. I want to emphasize that it's an open wound. It's an open wound of the society. The society needs to feel that pain all the time, needs to feel that open wound all the time, because it's that wound is not going to be ever closed. That wound's always going to remain open, and it's only going to get worse and worse. And therefore, every policy maker and everyone needs to take heed of the fact that this is the need of the society. This is not the need of the doctors. It's actually, at the end of the day, the need of the society. Having said that, is this going the right direction? I do not want it to get into that cacophony of who's to blame and what's to blame, and where and the politics which we see around the blame game, or even for the agencies. I just want to say one thing: wake up. This is a wake-up call. Exactly what we said. A central act would not have let this happen. A central act. We've now brought in a central investigating agency to look into this. A central act would not even have had these issues around whether it was the state or the center. It was a single act. The act would know exactly what was at fault. The act would have actually gone across a process of bringing in justice, bringing the perpetrators to court, actually fast-tracking their legal processes, and who needed to be punished would have been punished in a very fast-track manner. That's why we say this is quite obvious when we see this, that the Central Protection Act would have not let any of this happen. That's all I have to say.
Dr. Ashok Seth, truly appreciate your time and your insights on this.